A dystopian future.
Or reflection of current times.
Heavy surveillance all around us.
Made brain dead from the media transmitted onto our screens.
I mean, there are some worthwhile things to watch.
Oppression within the city walls.
A perilous wasteland beyond.
It sounds terrible.
Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats are here to guide us through this wasteland with Wasteland. Right, before I get started, as always, if you like the video, if you want to support the channel, like the video now. Like it right now. A lot of people forget to do it by the end of the video, so like it now. Okay, this is the band's 5th studio album. It's their first since 2015's The Night Creeper. This is one of those bands I'd heard a lot about over the years, but I'd never checked out until the beginning of this year when one of my subscribers, shout out to 012, who requested that I do a review of their 2013 Mind Control album, which I did, and I enjoyed tremendously. I thought that was an absolutely fantastic album. Check out that review at some point after this one, of course. I'm not going to go into the history of the band for this one because I've already done a video about that, but I just wanted to read out something that frontman Kevin Stars said of this album, just to get us prepared. The album is set in a land where people live in walled cities under heavy surveillance, cut off and in fear of one another. All their thoughts, knowledge and memories have been wiped clean, leaving them like the living dead, barely functioning and addicted to the glow of flickering propaganda screens. In the underworld, there are programmed discs for the brain that can replace stolen thoughts and allow people to finally think for themselves. It gives them knowledge to escape the misery of the cities and to reach the freedom of the outer wastelands. But the wastelands, of course, is total hell on earth. The general idea seemed quite fitting with all the propaganda and misinformation that we've been bombarded with in recent years. Yeah, so like all concept albums, this is one of those fictional pieces that is based squarely on current times. The first track is I See Through You. A psychedelic keyboard brings us into the world and it has a kind of a space rock sort of vibe to it, as most of their stuff does. And then it morphs into this kind of blissed out hippie riffage. Great start. Absolutely loved the beginning of this album. Feels like there's a good chemistry between all the players. Everything sounds really good. Of course, we get that real sort of lo-fi production. I've heard a lot of people sort of say shit about this album. Quite lackluster reviews about it and talking about the production and all that sort of stuff. But it's what you'd expect from an Uncle Acid and the Deadbeats album. It's got that very 60s, 70s style production and all the old equipment that they're using and instruments. And I like it. I like it myself. There's some great riffs on this one. I really particularly enjoyed the bass lines. And of course, we have Kevin Starr's unmistakable voice. It has that sort of it's very effect heavy, but it also has that very John Lennon-esque tone to it, that sort of nasally quality. Our protagonist is aware of the truth and wants others to know. Somebody let them know that they're wrong and they're all misinformed. Somebody light the torch of truth to see the shit they've spawned on you. It's not all true, it's the evil they do. This was a fantastic start to an album. Next up we have Shockwave City. Now this song has a very strong new wave of British heavy metal style riff to it. There's a couple of songs on this album that do. You've still got all the traditional sort of stoner vibes, the Sabbath worship obviously. There's elements of Iggy and the Stooges. Yeah, there's definitely a new wave of British heavy metal vibe on a lot of the songs on this album. This one in particular. All done with those fuzzed out guitars and a really 60s sounding rhythm section. I particularly enjoyed the bridge solo section on this tune as well. There's some really genuinely nice riffs on this song. I guess this song is about the people who have woken up, realised the bondage they are enslaved in, and they are seeking to leave the city for the wastelands. Into the dark lands we ride, to a place they'll never know, to a place they'll never get you. They know there's nowhere to hide, behind the walls of Shockwave City. There were a couple of great old school solos on this one as well. One thing I did notice on this album, Kevin Starr's lead playing has gone up quite a lot. He's done some genuinely good leads. Next up we have No Return. This has a really slinky, almost lounge-like kind of lulling, plodding sort of riff that sees us throughout the majority of the song. It does beef up as well. It gets a lot heavier. Boom, ding, 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 ding. That sort of a thing. Sleazy. Now, this song came in at 8 minutes 50 seconds. It did Did get a little bit repetitive, maybe. I know that's kind of the point with these sorts of songs. But during the midsection as well, around the 4-minute, 4:30 mark as well, there's a real nice sludgy section that I particularly enjoyed. Come taste the darkness, fulfill the urge. Our sky is starless as we hear the dirge. We've lived so long in silence, it's time to burn it all away. Free to Be Who I Be does not endorse arson. There's this really long, psyched out kind of keyboard outro as well that sort of goes on for the last couple of minutes of the song. And the final words that we hear, you will sleep now, a long sleep. Next up we have Blood Runner, and again with a new wave of British heavy metal style stuff. This guitar line in particular, especially when the harmony came in on it, could easily have been on the first Iron Maiden album. It's got a lot of similarities to the song Iron Maiden, actually. And this one lets us know of the mind-wiping nightmare. Store all your memories in thought banks. File as they capture your mind. By the middle of the night they faded. Drink up the poison they feed you. Sit back and wait for the ride. The ocean of your blood they've waded. Next up we have Stranger Tonight. This one had much more of an Iggy and the Stooges kind of a vibe. I found on this one. And the vibe of the song also kind of reminded me of their own song Mindcrawler from the Mind Control album. Quite the meeting of minds. Twat. I couldn't close my eyes. I didn't have much choice. I took out my pistol and ran from everyone. The air that's in my lungs, just like a noose that's strong, cuts off my blood and brain until I'm like everyone. Pretty straight ahead rocker, this one. Next up we have Wasteland. The title track itself, Wasteland, of course, being Wasteland. A land of waste. A land of shit! This is predominantly an acoustic tune with Kevin sounding at his utmost Lennon-esque. There's definitely a strong Beatles vibe on this song. Now this is another almost 8-minute track, and although it's predominantly acoustic, it does kind of build towards the back half of the song, and it does bring up this sort of apocalyptic vision of the apocalypse. You mean the Wasteland, that being the title of the song on the album. And through the haze they fought for days, but they never knew. Fate's cold hand in this wasteland will bury them too. Next up we have a Bedouin. I think it's pronounced Bedouin. Apparently the Bedouin were a group of nomadic Arabs who inhabited various desert regions throughout the ages. Roughly translated, the word means desert dweller. Facts! Another very strong new wave of British heavy metal vibe on this one. But along with that, the song kind of reminded me, the vocal phrasing in particular had a kind of Southern Man by Neil Young type of vibe to it. Bedouin, they've been waiting for you. Bedouin, they've been taking from you. And yet again we get some decent lead playing from Kevin. And the final song on the album is Exodus. Doesn't sound like it ends well. Again we get some nice psychedelic keyboards mixed in with the guitars before going into some much heavier riffage. There was a touch of Pink Floyd to this one as well, I found. There was another lengthy outro to this one with some more decent lead playing from Kevin. And the final words on the song, and therefore the album, you just do what they say. And after this we get some Death March style drumming, bringing us out of the song, fading away slowly. Not a happy ending. In terms of a score for this album, I'd give it a 7 out of 10. As I said earlier, there are quite a lot of people who've given a very lacklustre review of this. I don't quite understand why. I thought there was some very good stuff on here. You kind of almost know what you're getting with the band, you know, you don't expect a huge amount of experimentation. Although they, you know, have changed things up a little bit more. As I said, with the new wave of British heavy metal stuff, we get more of that sort of riffage going on in here. But there was some very good stuff. Decent story, as there always is. Highly worthwhile checking it out. Decent album. 7 out of 10. Fucking decent album. 7 out of 10. I'm not saying any more. So, what have I got coming up next? Well, I'm hoping that I'll actually be able to get out at some point. Where we really are again at that fucking time of the year. Nights are drawing in, there's less daylight to be able to get out and use stuff, and when I can get out, it's just pissing it down, tipping it down. But it won't stop me. It won't stop me doing the reviews. I've got to keep doing them. I was supposed to do a review of Author and Punisher's Beastland album. I was supposed to do it last week. I didn't get round to it in the end. I'm hopefully gonna film that in a minute. Friday, we've got quite a lot of albums coming out. We've got Greta Van Fleet releasing their debut album. Finally, I'm gonna be taking a look at that. We've got the new Disturbed album. I'll take a look at that. We have the new Soulfly album. Definitely gonna be taking a look at that. And also, I think Richard Ashcroft is releasing an album. I used to listen to The Verve a hell of a lot back in the day, and I listened to his first couple of solo albums as well. There was some good stuff, so I haven't checked him out in quite a while, so I'm very curious to see what he's up to. So if I get a chance, I'm going to do that as well. Is that it?